Thank you. Hello, ma'am. We are live now on YouTube also.
Yeah, very good.
So we can,
I have admitted people, 17 are already here.
yes.
Mm.
So we will start at 5:30 sharp.
Yeah, I'll give 2-3 minutes more. Is Kurush out somewhere out of Mumbai?
I don't know, ma'am. Shall we start, ma'am?
Let's give them 3 more minutes.
Okay.
People seem to be joining. Any crowd on YouTube?
There are a few people.
You can see people.
Yes. 3 as of now, ma'am.
And that's not much.
But most of them have access to the Zoom, so they'll join from here.
Yeah, correct.
Hmm.
Are you going to use the, is he going to show some slides? Did you ask him?
I think so.
Okay. Ready, Dr. Selva? Shall we?
Yes,
Should
yes.
Ramesh start? Ramesh, please start then.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. I have the honor to introduce Dr. Veerasamy Selvakumar. He was born in 1966. He is a faculty member currently in the Department of Epigraphy and Archaeology at Tamil University, Tanjore. He completed his doctoral research and postdoctoral research from the Deccan College, Pune. He was a faculty member at the Center for Heritage Studies, Tirupunithura, Kerala, from 2003 to 2007. And he is a NTICVAM visiting researcher, that stands for Nehru Trust for the Indian Collections at the Victoria and Albert Museum. That was at the Center for Maritime Archaeology, Southampton University. His research interests include the archaeology of India, prehistory, heritage management, maritime history and archaeology, archaeological theory, heritage management, history of science and technology, Indian Ocean cultural interactions, and eco-criticisms. So welcome, Dr. Selvakumar, and the floor is yours.
One instruction, Dr. Selva, can you reduce the light which is in front of you because it is shining on your face?
Okay, just a second.
Yeah, that's better. That's better. Yes.
Thank you. I would like to thank the Institution Trust and Dr. Mukta Karnik and Dr. Kurush Dalal and Mr. Ramesh Gauri Raghavan. So today I am going to talk about the early and mid-Holocene cultures and also about Neolithic, mainly in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. Because of the bandwidth, I will switch off my video and share the presentation. I hope you can see my presentation. Okay.
Yes, sir, very much.
My focus is on the early and mid-Holocene foragers and the Neolithic cultures of South India, mainly in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. What I am going to focus today. Today, I'll be talking about the Mesolithic as well as microlithic cultures of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and also about the Neolithic culture in Tamil Nadu, more particularly what we have excavated in the year 2021 near Coimbatore. And also I'll be discussing about some of the recently available early dates. I have put recent early dates. What I mean is recently available early dates for Iron Age in Tamil Nadu. What I have not discussed, which is also important for understanding the early cultural formation in South India, is the literature. I have not focused. Ethnography of the tribal communities, that has not been focused today. DNA studies, no. Megalithic Iron Age burials, which are also important. And also Sri Lankan evidence of Mesolithic, I have not focused today. And also linguistic source. So these things, I think we can discuss later or some other period of time. So coming to this early Holocene culture, we have these microlithic sites which are found in many parts of South India. And the Holocene is generally placed in 11,500 BP. And this is the period when global warming took place after the last glacial maximum and the ice age. We see the proliferation of microlithic sites, about which Professor V.N. Mishra and several researchers from Deccan College have studied. Now I'll come to one important cluster of microlithic site in Tamil Nadu, mainly in the southeastern coast. They are known as Theri red sand dune sites of the Tirunelveli region. Here you find very beautiful red sand dunes on which you find these microlithic artifacts. There are 2-3 layers of these sand dunes. Some of these are recent sand dunes on top of which you will not find, but further beneath in the old sand dunes which are weathered, which have become red, you will find microliths. They were studied by Robert Bruce Foote and later on by Zuner and Alchin. They published in 1956. They are found mainly south of Rameshwaram and up to Tirunelveli, Korkai area. And further south, there are some sand dunes in Muttam in Kanyakumari region. And these sand dunes were researched by Zuner and Alchan and also by several people, including Rajendran and Gardner and Martingale. They published in 1990. And Papu et al., they have published a paper in a volume edited by Padaya and Vishnupriya Basak. And Gardner and Martingale, they have this to say on the microlithic side. The occupation and use of the area occurred within the period between last glacial and mid-Holocenes, and it certainly stopped by 4000 BC. So they these sites before 2000 BC, and later on, studies by other people, especially Jayagonda Perumal, has suggested this site could date back to an early period. Similarly, Papu, Shanti Papu and Ramindranath and others, they have also suggested this site could date back to an early period. So this is one cluster of important microlithic sites that have been studied from the early period. And we have, interestingly, similar kind of microlithic sites in Sri Lanka. And those Sri Lankan sites, they have produced a very early date. We have dates ranging from 28,500. That is why scholars have suggested the sites of Tamil Nadu coast are not that old. But recent dating suggests that these sites could be very old. These are some of the sites. We have Surangudi, which is near Thuthukudi, and Kulattur, Kuttambuli, and Sayarpuram, Menganapuram. These are the sites. If you get time, you should visit those sites, and they are very beautiful. You see very vast stretches of these red sand dunes, and they are interesting indeed. And it is from there, Zuner and Alchin, they have collected microliths of quartz as well as chert material, and they have published it in India volume. And they have also been studied by geologists who have Jayagonda Perumal in his paper published in 2012. He has discussed about various phases of evolution, and this is the model he suggests for the development of these sand dunes. One important factor is that Sri Lanka and India, they were connected by land before 7000 BP, and that is something which we need to take into consideration. So, to this Jayagonda Perumal's work, he says that the base of the coastal theory is not exposed. So that is why we do not know when this started. So he says that the study area is located on the lee side of the Western Ghats. The summer monsoon was weakening during the last glacial maximum, but the northeast monsoon was stronger than the present. We therefore speculate that the CT deposition began post 24,000 years and ceased at 11.4 thousand years ago. So this is his conclusion, and the microlithic sites were occupied during the weathering of the coastal theory after 11,400 KA. Say that's what he says. These sites date post 11,000 years, post 11,000 years, and he says that between 7.3 thousand and 5.2 to 4.2 thousand, the sea level was higher, allowing for submerged coastal theory sediments to be considered as near coastal theory. And the near coastal theory sediments were weathered in situ. Reddening took place after 5.6 thousand years. The microlithic occupation ceased prior to or after the deposition of near coastal theory. That is his conclusion. So probably by about 6,000 or 5.6, this stopped. So definitely these activities have stopped in the after say 4.2K. That is the conclusion they are arriving at. The same conclusion we find in the work of Gardner and Martingale. So this is one important cluster. But again, we have, still debates on the precise nature of these theory industries, because we get a lot of interesting artifacts, points, and clearly suggesting that these communities were exploiting the coastal areas. And then we have Sri Lanka. We have very important evidence. As I said already, Sri Lanka and India were connected before 7000 BP. And definitely there must have been exchange of people in Sri Lanka. They have recorded at several sites continuity of the microlithic tradition, where we have the Vedda population who are now known as Manialeto. And these people seems to have lived here from the early time, and some of the DNA studies in South India and other studies point out that these one group of population in South India is probably associated with the early Homo sapien migration somewhere before 40 to 50,000 years ago. That is a point that we need to focus further. But we will focus on further evidence of microlithic sites in Tamil Nadu. Based on my research, I did for my doctoral research mainly the Gundar Basin, which you can see here as a small area. So we did a lot of exploration after that and found numerous microlithic site. What you see in this map is the Gundar Basin, where we noticed in 1990s numerous microlithic site, especially near the hill areas on the eastern side of the Western Ghats, where we have several tribal communities such as Palians and other groups are living. At the site of at several sites, we also found materials in sedimentary context above the bedrock, granitic bedrock. We also did some trial trenches in some of the rock shelter. This site is known as E. Gopalapuram. We have a lot of such rock shelters across South India, where we have deposits, of red soil. And in some of these sites, we found microliths without pottery or anything. In some contexts, we also found animal bones and other materials. This is a site known as Veerapatti in Upper Gundar Basin. And we found these kind of artifacts. We also found Middle Paleolithic artifacts, which were reported by K.B. Raman, Guru Rajarao and other researchers earlier, and microliths of triangle, lunates, and everything. This particular graph presents the various categories of artifacts. We found finished implements in very limited number, say 13.25, and whereas the other debitage was found in large frequency. This is the raw material distribution. In the interior area, we did not find much of chert or other materials. We found mostly quartz material, more than 90% quartz, and very limited chert and chalcedony and other material. This is the map of Gundar Basin, where we also have Iron Age sites, and we documented several sites where we find these microliths underlying the Iron Age early historic deposit. This is known as Papinayakanpatti, where we have a date of 1st century BC for the sediments of the Iron Age early historic, and below we have this red soil where we found microliths. In addition to that, we also found several megalithic burials in this area. We found bone tools associated with the early historic context here at the site, animal bones, and especially at the lowermost level, we found the microliths in stratified context. Similarly, Mangudi is another site excavated by, we found several bone tools which were used in the later context also. Sometimes the bone tools were associated with the microliths and ceramics of black and red ware, what has been reported by MLK Murthy in the Nallamalai region of Andhra Pradesh. So based on that, I proposed that these hunter-gatherers coexisted with the Iron Age early historic agro-pastoral communities. This was in the 1990s. And also, interestingly, we found a skeleton which has been published by S.R. Valmiki, and this particular human skeleton had an interesting, post-injury cure evidence, in the sense that somebody has killed this individual by cutting the head, mainly the cranial part of it, and small part was damaged. And this individual was living after at least 3-4 months after the injury. This has been published. After I moved to Tamil Nadu in 2007, I started exploring many of the region, especially the ferricrete landscapes, which extends from, say, from Kadalur down to Tirunelveli region. And you can see this region very clearly in the Google Earth map. And wherever you have these ferricrete and other deposit, you find microlithic artifacts. We found more than 300 sites across Tamil Nadu in several areas. In some places, we found them in the sedimentary context. And we also excavated a site called Pillayarpatti within our university campus. We've also found microliths in the coastal area in the coastal sediments. This is a site near Nagapattinam, and the university campus, where we have both late Paleolithic as microliths in situ. And these are some of the middle or late Paleolithic sites within the Tamil University. This is the typical stratigraphy that you see in Tanjavur region. You have this washed ferricrete layer which produce microliths, and on top of it you have this red soil, which sometimes produce black and red ware, sometimes polished stone axes, and this we documented within the Tamil University. Interestingly, we also found some possible evidence for water harvesting. So we find a higher frequency of the tools and implements in this particular ferricrete context, and we possibly identified a water harvesting pit-like feature, which probably dates to the Mesolithic period. And this is the pit in which water was stagnant after the rain, immediately after our excavation. We also found tools embedded in the ferricrete context, which is very common in Tanjavur region. And those tools which are embedded in the primary lateritic or ferricrete context are dated to the Paleolithic. We have got dating from the site of Punalkulam, where these sites, it is suggested these sites could go back more than 40,000 BP. And then we have microliths which are datable to 9,000 BP. So clearly suggesting this region was inhabited by several communities of foragers who were probably, highly nomadic and moving across the landscape between the Kaveri Delta as well as in the adjoining territories. We found several tools, and this is the stratigraphy that we have. We have laterite bedrock, over which we have the lateritic crust, in which we found paleoliths. We found a sterile layer, and then gravel bed, and then the red loam, which we saw earlier. And it is in this red loam we have sometime black and red ware on top, and very beautifully the site of Vallam, which was excavated by Subbarayalu, and that has given evidence for Iron Age settlement, where they have a date of 1000 BC. for a Iron Age context, but these tools are found definitely below. So this is one indirect evidence to suggest that some of the microlithic sites definitely date prior to 1000 BC. So this has been documented at Mangudi, excavated by Tamil Nadu State Archaeology Department, and then another site called T. Kalupatti, where we have these microliths coming from bedrock, the red soil above the bedrock in a context before the late Neolithic evidence at T. Kalupatti. Then similarly, we have this evidence at S. Papinayakanpatti. So it is a common pattern across both in Tamil Nadu. I'll be talking about Kerala sites later. So we have clearly evidence of microlithic using communities. And also we did some phytolithic studies, Sanjay Exabarkar did, and we have phytoliths of several grass species, including banana from this area, grain size analysis of sediment we did. Already I told you the OSL dating available for Punalkulam, that dates some of the microliths to 9000 BP. So based on this evidence, as well as the 3000 BP or 1000 BP available for the sediments of Iron Age, so we can clearly suggest that these microlithic using hunter-gatherers, foragers existed across South India. So coming to this Kerala, Kerala presents a very interesting data. Several microliths reported all across Kerala, and they have not been studied. As far as Kerala is concerned, the studies have focused mainly on the megalithic burials. So they did not focus on the other kinds of pre-megalithic culture. So the studies are mainly on the Iron Age megalithic burials or sites like Edakal. But these microliths, they are found all over Kerala in this context, very similar to what has been reported in Tamil Nadu. They are also reported from sites like Marayur and several other cave shelters. And also we found similar evidence at Anakkara. During my exploration in Coimbatore region, also near Madura, Marudamalai and Valayar and several areas, we documented microliths. Same is the case, as I said, all along the Western Ghats, we have several microlithic sites. And Vadavalli, Valayar, Malambura Dam, even including the campus of the Bharatiyar University, Coimbatore, we documented microliths. And Kerala has reported Paleolithic evidence, and Dr. P. Rajendran first reported these implements from Palakkad region, and he has come up with several sites across Kerala. More importantly, he excavated the site of Tenmalai in Koilon or Kollam district, where he has got radiocarbon dating. And similarly, Nilambur, again, the site famous for tea cultivation during the colonial period. Ajit Kumar has documented Middle Paleolithic tools. My own exploration with my students in Edakal brought out tools possibly of Middle Paleolithic and also several microlithic sites. The same pattern what we see in Kerala, we notice in Tamil Nadu also. At Kolangod, Kolangod is a megalithic burial site which was excavated by Kerala State Archaeology Department, and Sanal Kumar from Palakkad has participated. And here at this site, we have mainly megalithic burials. But interestingly, the sediments have produced a lot of microliths. And Anakkara is another site, Anakkara. The site name is Anakkara. It is located in Palakkad district. This was excavated by Rajan Gurukal and K.P. Shahjan. I was there for one season. And this was excavated as part of MG University, Kottayam. And here also we get, very thick deposit of sediment overlaying the laterite. Anakkara is a very interesting site. We have 2-3 type of landscape. One is laterite tabletop, on which there is a megalithic rocket cave and also megalithic quarry evidence. And then we have another kind of sediment site in the low-lying area. It is here we have several burials and also red soil sediments where we took the trenches, trenches in between two burials, two test pits, and we found a lot of charcoals, very interestingly. And we also found microliths from this. We also have evidence for megalithic habitation at Anakara, and in between we also found these sediments yielding microliths. And similarly, Kinaluru is another site located in Calicut, Malappuram area. And this was excavated by Kerala State Archaeology as part of salvage excavation. Here also we have same context. We have a megalithic burial site, and in between you have this red soil sediments in which you find this microliths. Same way, Rajan, who was at Palakkad Victoria College, now he moved to another college. He has noticed several microlithic sites in Palakkad. We have also explored this particular region, some sites with microliths from surface context. Rajan has found a lot of sites, especially around the Malambura Dam, where we also find materials such as chert. So very interestingly, these microliths, which are found all across, have not been focused sufficiently. We have not undertaken any detailed scientific research to get radiocarbon dates. These are the artifacts recovered by Dr. Rajendran from Tenmalai. And Dr. Rajendran, he has dated this site to 5,100 plus or minus 120 BP. So clearly it comes in the range of say 3000 plus BC. So this is the period when, the Indus Valley civilization was flourishing in the northwestern part of India. And, one question is whether the Indus people had any kind of maritime contacts with South India. This is a question that we need to ask. If at all they had connected with southern Kerala coast, they would have met these foragers who could have exchanged. But again, we need to prove, as you know, the Kerala coast is very dynamic. It is very unlikely that we will be finding evidence for any kind of exchange, because Kerala landscape is very much affected by the heavy rainfall. We may not be able to find evidence very easily. These are some of the microlithic flakes that we found at Anakara in Palakkad district. And this is the stratigraphy of the trial trench at Anakara, where we have evidence, microlithic in situ from very deep deposit. This is Dr. Shahjan, with whom we, excavated. So these are the dates that we have. The first three dates are for Anakara, which we did at IUAC New Delhi. We are thankful to Dr. Pankaj, who collaborated. So very interestingly, we have a date of one date falling in the range of 27,559 BP, which is very important. We have another date for a sample falling in 3,329 BP. So these two dates definitely suggest the continuity or possible existence of microliths using communities living here, and they have probably used fire, and it is these charcoals which are available in the sediment. So these are some of the important evidence that we have for the site of Anakara. I think it's very important. We have not yet published the date. This is the site now. So combining the dates that are available here, 3,329 and 5,130 for Tenmalai by Rajendran, and other dates 27,559 plus or minus 165 definitely indicate that the hunter-gatherer foragers were living in Kerala and possibly in Tamil Nadu region throughout, at least in the Holocene. The date of 27,000 is very much matches with what has been reported in Sri Lanka. So these are some of the important evidence we have as far as the Mesolithic culture is concerned. When you look at the population formation in South India, most of the time we ignore the pre-existing population. We generally people don't give much focus to the Mesolithic or microlithic foragers. But these evidences, what I have reported is only a sample. If you look all across South India, you find clear evidence for these microlithic using foragers existing in various landscapes. Only problem is we have not focused on their sediments because these sites produce only lithic material, only flakes, which are not very attractive, which are not comprehensible for the common people. And except the researchers, not many people are interested because people always want major civilization or massive kind of establishment. But one important thing, when we combine this result with the theories on the ethnographic situation in South India and also linguistic evidence and DNA studies, we can definitely say one segment of population in South India and Sri Lanka has been living here from the Holocene, early Holocene, or beyond continuously. So this is one kind of population segment. So now we will move on to the Neolithic. What happens in the Neolithic? We have Southern Neolithic, you all know, which is mainly concentrated in Tamil Nadu, which is mainly concentrated, in Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka, not in Tamil Nadu. Payamballi has been the only site, and this report is from Indian Archaeology Review, where S.R. Rao excavated. They have reported clear evidence and date possibly around 2000 BC. 2000 BC, and this is a very important site, and this has been the only site. They have also reported Neolithic and then Iron Age deposit above. So there has been continuity. Recently, Mailadambarai was excavated by Tamil Nadu State Archaeology Department, where they have found Neolithic remains. Several other sites they have excavated. And one of the problem with the Neolithic in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, see, we tend to, date any site with polished stone axe as a Neolithic site, which is not acceptable, because the so-called celt or polished stone axes, they have been, they have been existing in various contexts. See, the date of an object is different from the date of the context. See, these polished stone axes, they are placed within the shrines of 21st century and worshipped, but they may not be of Neolithic in age sometime. Probably the stone axe producing tradition continued. So we cannot identify a Neolithic site just on the basis of celt, and some of the Paleolithic sites identified in the Dharmaburi region, they are considered to be the celt material, as a result of celt lithic reduction. That study has been published by Akhilesh and Shanti Papu and others. They argue some of these sites where where scholars have identified as Paleolithic are actually the preforms of the polished stone axes. That is one important study that was published. And then we were exploring the Coimbatore region, mainly in the Nuyal River Valley, to understand the prehistoric sites. We were looking mainly in the Mesolithic sites. And here we identified an important site called Molapalayalam, which is in the Nuyal River Valley. And also several sites have been found in Tamil Nadu. For example, B. Narasimhaya has excavated trial trenches, and these sites have not been studied in detail. because these megaliths are very common in Tamil Nadu. People tend to follow both Tamil Nadu and Kerala. The studies start with the megalithic Iron Age. The evidences before the megaliths have not been focused enough. This is one of the problems, and also very few radiocarbon datings are available. These are the megalithic sites found in Coimbatore region. This map is after Dr. Rajan. Here, we found a Neolithic site at a place near Molapalayalam, and where if you see, you can see the hills all around the site, and this site very much remains the sheltered sites of Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh, where you have these castellated granite blocks, and then the Neolithic settlements are located. Here in the Noyal River Valley, we find west of Coimbatore, we find a very interesting location where the people have selected this site. So we were actually tracing the water spring. There is a water spring in this area. Nearby this water spring, there is a rural settlement and an old shrine. So we were following the water spring, and then we found two streams from this water spring. They enclose the site on both sides. This site is located in the center. So we could see ash from this road. You can see this ash concentration, high degree of ash, mainly situated on the southern part of the site, and we did excavate the site in 2021, and also we did map and did collect from surfaces. We dug two trenches. One measured 8 by 6 and 4 by 4 meter. And we found interesting evidence here. And this is the site map. And in one of the trenches, we found three skeletal remains. And these skeletal remains are studied by Dr. Veena Mushrif Tripathi. And one of the burial belongs to an adult female. And the age of the female was around 45. That is the estimate Dr. Veena gave. And then we have an extended burial of a 6 to 7 year old boy, a baby, we don't know male or female, and another infant of 2 to 3 years old. And that is very interesting. This is the skeleton. We lifted the skeleton. These are the two skeletons. All the skeletons had their head facing the east, and they were focusing on more or less, they were not directly east, little off towards the northern, so 5 degrees off north, and it is the residential area. So they have clearly buried within the residential area, but we could not find any post-hole or other remains. Probably they had makeshift residential structures. Another interesting thing we found was the pit burials. These pits, not pit burials, pits. We found several pits. The site was full of pits, and these pits had a lot of grains and pottery, and some of these pits could be used for temporary residence. That is, we wouldn't call them as pit dwellings, but definitely these people were storing their objects and they were staying here within that. This particular photograph shows you the possible size of the pit where, 2-3 people can comfortably rest during the hot times, and some of the pits extended. We also found numerous querns, rubber stones, spheroids, lithic artifacts, and only one copper fragment we found at this site. And these are the polished stone axes, which are also the context as well as from the burial. And sometimes these, polished stone axes have been extensively used, and we saw battered marks at the terminal end. You can see and they have been extensively used here. And these are the queries. The field is filled with these kind of words and everything, and all these materials. So the property was under cultivation by the local farmer. And so a lot of material, even, we identified the site in 2019. At that point itself, we were convinced that it was a Neolithic site, because you can look at this particular pottery, especially this long neck and the lip is very typical of Neolithic period, and also the burnished nature of the surface. That clearly indicates that it is a Neolithic ceramic. And also, what is interesting is we found a lot of animal bones, as one would find in any of the Neolithic sites. No other major artifacts: stone tools and animal bones and pottery. These are the three categories, and select animal bones have been studied by Dr. G.S. Abhayan from Kerala University. And he has identified the presence of cattle, buffalo, and also large mammals and goat sheep, deer, antelope. So nearby this area, we have a forest. And sometimes elephants also visit this site nowadays. It is close to the elephant corridor, and these animals do visit and sometimes eat the cultivated plants, and sometimes farmers complain that these coconut trees are eaten by the moving elephants. And there's one bone of dog and small mammals. The study is still under going on for these animal bones, and this phenomenal amount of animal bones in the ash deposit. We found a lot of animals in situ context, and also we found evidence of certain bone tools also. These people have used bone tools apart from the these lithic tools. That is one common aspect. They also have polished stone tools. What is more interesting is the ornament category. So we found 3 small shell beads. So that was a big surprise for us, because we didn't expect marine shell beads. And in addition to that, we found one shell bead of Oliva sp. Actually, Dr. Aarti Deshpande Mukherjee identified this Oliva sp. Then this was found along with the female burial. It was nearby the rib bones. So obviously, the shell was worn by this woman around her hip. That is one possibility. Or it was on her neck that slipped to the rib bone area. We don't know. And we found later on, when we brought the skeleton to the Tamil University, then re-excavated when Dr. Veena visited, we found one more Oliva sp nearby the hand, because the hand of this individual was underneath her belly. And there we found another. Probably this particular Oliva was tied around the hand. So these people had a strong belief that these shells had some kind of power. We don't know. And they were using this particular ornament. Shells are obviously, they are marine in origin. They are exotic. They are not locally available. And these people had a kind of value for that. So this find is very important. We have a date for this site between, say, 1600 to 1400 BC. We have 2 radiocarbon dates. So that definitely indicates that the marine shell network of South India extends to a period between 1600 BC to 1400 BC. This is very important. This also indirectly points out that there were some community. We do not know from where the marine shell came, because we have marine shell reported from the Southern Neolithic and Deccan Chalcolithic. We don't know whether this came from there or from southeastern coast or from Kerala coast. Since it is very close to Palakkad Gap, we need to do further analysis. But one thing is interesting, that these marine shells, somebody was exploiting marine shell from a coastal context, and these people had an exchange network as early as 1600 BC. And also these people had some kind of fashion for fish design. We found a pendant made of lamnids, which is a freshwater shell. And this is the cut piece of shell, turbinella. If this has to be cut, obviously these people must have had copper tools, but we did not find any copper implement except a small ornament, possibly a spring. And this is the in situ near the rib. See, these are the modern specimens of Oliva sp, and Oliva sp has been used extensively as an ornament from the Neolithic sites across the world. And this is the fish pendant made of freshwater mussel. And here you can see it was found within the pit. What I showed you, one of the pits produced this. And here you can see the mouth, the fish has wide open mouth and the eye, and then the scales are also very delicately carved. So this is one important piece, which probably it was worn by the kids or somebody, we don't know. And this definitely points to their aesthetic sense. We cannot say that these Neolithic people were only, only busy with their subsistence alone. They had certain aesthetic and sense, and they had certain belief system, which are brought out by these small artifacts. Another important aspect is the archaeobotanical remains. We made it a point to collect botanical remains. So we did flotation. Actually, Dr. Satish Nayak from Deccan College guided us. So with our students painstakingly taking effort to collect 20 kilos samples, and from various contexts, we did flotation, because from the sieving of soil itself, dry sieving, we could collect a lot of plant remains. We found evidence of koda millet, which is varage, black gram, which is ulunu, and green gram, pachai payaru, horse gram, kollu, hyacinth bean, which is a kind of bean, and Indian jujube, which is common everywhere. Indian jujube is this ilandai, which is there everywhere. And also there is another kind of plant. Seeds have been identified by Satish Nayak. What is important here? We have a description in the early Tamil literature. When we look at this particular finding, along with what is found in early Tamil literature, there is a poem which talks about certain flowers, which are, I think it's Pronanuru 336. I'm not sure. I need to check. And I didn't put that here because I'm not discussing the literature reference. And it talks about four types of people who were very old or very ancient people, and calls them as kudis. It also refers to four types of millets, three types of millets and one bean, out of which we have found all those three. So very interestingly, the early Tamil literature, which is generally dated to the early centuries of the Common Era, lists certain kinds of millets as very traditional and old kind of millet, and it discusses about certain flowers, and we found three of them in the excavation. So clearly, this tradition of agriculture had established much earlier, around 600 BC. These are some of the seeds that we recovered. Our students were trained, and we also found typical burnished pottery, burnished blackware, burnished dark brownware, so many varieties, rusticated ware, painted pottery. And these painted pottery, some of them are reserve slipped, in the sense that they have painted white kind of pigment, and then they have removed. And that we have found, Dr. studying these paintings, we found 2 pieces of this terracotta headrest. That is something very interesting. Terracotta headrest is actually 3 pieces. And you can see these 2 here and the other piece on the right-hand side. So it is very interesting piece here. And so we don't use terracotta headrest nowadays, but when I searched in Africa, these communities, they use these kind of terracotta headrests, and they are very commonly reported in the Neolithic sites across South India. And this is the specimens. These are the specimens we found, and these are the ones which are available in Africa. Very interesting. And as I said, we have got 2 radiocarbon dates. One date falls in the range of, say, 1610 to 1442, 1623 to 1501. So these 2 dates clearly reveal that this site can be dated to a period between, say, 1600 to 1400. And technology, have a paper by Fuller et al., Fuller, and others. They did the Southern Neolithic into various phases, and this site could be dated in the last phase of Southern Neolithic culture based on these dates. And coming to this Neolithic status, so we have these Neolithic communities emerging in South India, say around 3000 BC, and we have this culture spreading into different parts. And by 2000, we have this evidence appearing in Payamballi. And this site we identified at Molapalayalam near Palkad Gap. The site is very close to Palkad Gap. So definitely suggests that we have such cultural evidence dating in the second BC. So what is the importance of this research? Is that so far the research in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, they are confined mainly to the Iron Age barriers. They never went beyond the Iron Age, but we have these sites lying there, here and there across Tamil Nadu. Unfortunately, the Neolithic sites are very poorly visible because the deposits are sometimes 20, 30, 40 centimeter, sometimes occasionally at 1 meter or 1.5 meter. Such sites definitely exist across, and it is our survey that need to focus on locating such sites. So we cannot talk about the formation of culture in South India without really understanding these early cultural formation. As far as Andhra and Karnataka is concerned, a lot of sites are there, and they have been extensively studied. And another important research that needs to be focused is this ethnographic research. So we did also some study on the Palians. These communities, these so-called tribal communities, are also important source of information in terms of ethnography and history and oral tradition. So we noticed some rock paintings sites in the Gundar Basin. This site is known as Chitrakal Podavu. And there are several sites where Palians of the modern day, they make paintings. And we documented these sites. We documented, this is another site called Kovilamparai, where these people depict the honey gathering method as part of their paintings. This also we documented. Some of these sites, they have, this is a jackal or fox, and they have multiple layers of painting. This is we also did some documentation of Palian gathering honeys. We have a lot of communities living in the Western Ghats and Nilgiri areas, and several other areas where we find rock shelters, rock paintings, hero stones. Hero stones mainly depicting the human-animal conflict. Some of them are depicting the encounters with animals where people were killed by tiger. Even today, this happens mainly in the western part of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, and also in Kerala. This animal encounter is very common among these communities, and that is also very important area of study. So our study should not stop with Iron Age or something, and these communities continue to live. But when you look into early Tamil literature, you find a description of these communities living in the hills and various areas. And these are some of the late shrines in that area that we documented. So finally, coming to the final part of my presentation. In order to understand the cultural formation in South India, we need to focus on the problem of microliths. The microliths are very important. Of course, we have earliest evidence of human ancestor occupying about 1.5 million years ago. We have evidence identified by Dr. Shanti Papu and her team at Athirambakam. And also they have reported Middle Paleolithic in 385,000 BP. And then we have these Holocene cultures that have not been clearly researched. So there are several microlithic sites on surface as well as in the sedimentary context. So these sedimentary contexts need to be dated. Our focus should be on this this region of 3,000, so 10,000 to 1,000 BC. That is an area for which we need more radiocarbon date, more research. Iron Age dates, recently Tamil Nadu has come up with Tamil Nadu State Archaeology. They have excavated, they have dates ranging from 2,500 to 1,500 BC, which are important. I think that is an area where we need to do more detailed research to understand how iron developed, how these Neolithic communities transformed. That is an area we have not focused. Even the southern Neolithic culture in Andhra and Karnataka need to be freshly looked at, freshly researched. I would suggest that these four states, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, Andhra, they need to, work together, try to understand early cultural formations. And that is one area which need focus. So without really exploring and excavating and undertaking, scientific dating, we may not be able to understand how these cultures developed. And currently, our focus has been mainly on the Iron Age. We need to go further deep and try to understand the Mesolithic forages and other communities. It is not necessary that we have to focus only on the civilization or grand histories or grand past. I think every communities, every culture is very important in our research. Coming to this long distance connection. So why, I want to highlight this particular aspect is how these long distance communities connected with South India. This is one of the research problems that we need to focus. Currently, we have evidence of turmeric from Megiddo in Israel, say 1800 BC, and Ramses II's burial dated to 1213 BC with peppercorn. We don't know its source. And then we have cinnamon evidence in Israel dated to 900 BC. And also there are a lot of statements from the historians about Solomon's palace and reference in Bible, similarity of the terms for peacock feather and all that. So in order to prove these kind of early interactions, we need to understand the structure of the cultures that developed in this region, right from the Mesolithic onwards. Currently, there is a paucity of research as well as dating on the period between 11,000 BP to 3,000 BP. and more particularly 5,000 to 3,000 BP. And the questions like we always think the Harappans had interaction with the Sumerians and West. What about their connection with the East? It's very connection with the Southern India and Central India. We don't know because the evidence sometimes may not be easily available, but still we need to, undertake our research with specific research problems with specific research questions. So if we undertake our explorations and excavations and scientific dating in order to understand, these gaps, in order to fill these gaps, we will be able to come up with more evidence. So our focus should be on asking the right research questions and focus on these early culture from a holistic perspective. So these are some of the points that I wanted to discuss today. And I would like to thank, I hope I am within the time. I would like to thank the institution trust and Dr. Mudha Karnik and Ramesh Gauri Raghavan and Kurish Dalal for the opportunity. I hope I have covered everything what I wanted to, because these are the areas that I wanted to focus. So we have clear evidence for, microlithic using hunter-gatherers, clear evidence for Neolithic, but we need further research, mainly in the mountain areas of southern India. There are many caves, rock shelters, they need to be excavated. Only with the focused research and research question, we will be able to understand the cultural formation in South India. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Selvakumar.
Okay.
We have started getting questions in the chat box, so I'll read them out to you.
Okay.
Gaurangi Sharma asks, good evening, sir. Is there a connection between the Harappan civilization and various occupations in South India? Is that an elaborate field that should be studied?
I think we don't have any direct evidence to suggest that the Harappans traded with South India. Some people have said the gold might have gone from South India, but currently we don't have strong evidence for that. But there could have been some kind of indirect connections, but we can't say anything without much evidence. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At Kiradi and at Chivakalai, we have seen megalithic horizon. Is there any horizon earlier than that?
As far as we know, there is no evidence for Neolithic from Kiradi as well as from the Sivakalai. As well as from Siva, we don't have. Maybe there could be some other sites that we need to explore.
Because we have, as institution, we actually managed to visit the sites of Korkai, Sivakalai and Adichanallur together in February this year. And okay. I think we experienced mostly a megalithic horizon. And
yeah, megalithic Iron Age. Maybe even Iron Age, Sivakalai, they have got early dates. Iron Age, early historic. More early historic at Kiradi than Iron Age. They have got a date of 600 BC and whereas Sivakalai, they have earlier dates.
Oh, and we also visited the Kudramuri Teri. So
yeah,
does it tend to, so is it like there is, for the current evidence available, do you have a jump from the Paleolithic directly to the early historic in southern Tamil Nadu?
No, actually we have Mesolithic. We have clear Mesolithic, but yes, no Neolithic. No Neolithic so far. We need to see. It is not necessary that a culture has to undergo all these stages. Sometimes people can simply transfer from Mesolithic to Iron Age. We need to explore, I believe. See, till the discovery of Kiradi, nobody thought there would be a site like Kiradi. But sometimes, we assume that we know everything. But there are so many sites that have not been excavated, that have not been identified.
Renuka Devaya has two questions.
Yeah.
Question one is, what are rubber stones? Are they used for grinding?
See, rubber stones, they were used for grinding. So grinding grains. I showed you some quants. Normally, they were using, they use these quants for grinding. So the rubber stones were used for grinding grains. And I saw another question, stone tools. These bone tools, they were probably, we don't know, we didn't identify. I think Abhayan will be able to tell. And I think some of them are made of cattle bones. They made use of whatever the bone available. Human bones, no. I don't think they have used human bones for making tools. Obviously, people keep killing animal butchering for day-to-day use or occasional use, and then they save the bones and they make tools out of it.
R. Priyadarshini asked, sir, Paleolithic tools or update the Neolithic polish tools pebbles tools
yeah, Paleolithic, we can't say, see, Paleolithics were different. They were all crude tools. In the Neolithic period, they tried to polish and use the tools. And some of the tools, they use them just by simply flaking. So we are dealing with completely different contexts where the ideologies, belief system, functional activities determine the nature of tools. So, but the Neolithic people had preference for polished stone axes. Maybe they had a symbolic value apart from, their functional value. They are very common.
Satya asks, how are rock sites dated?
Rock art is a problem. One is we can date them indirectly by looking at the color. But again, this is very subjective. There are scientific datings that have been obtained for some sites in central India. Ruman Banerjee, they have obtained. It is impossible to date the rock art just based on the color or style. But locally, we can do relative dating. Suppose if you find multiple layers or palimpsestic evidence in one side, we could suggest that certain paintings are earlier than the later paintings by dating the overlap. Otherwise, rock art is a very dicey area. It is very difficult to date. Same way, microliths also. It is very difficult to date. Yes.
Thanks, sir. Renuka Devaya asked, has the Kaveri Delta changed over the years, location-wise?
Not much in the recent area. There is one theory that somebody said that Kaveri was once flowing towards this Palar. That is a very old theory. But in the recent years, it has not changed much. There is one Pramod Singh from Pondicherry University. He has done some research on the delta formation, and he has come up with some conclusion. For a certain period of time, he says that there is no sediment in the Kaveri Delta, suggesting sea level fluctuations.
S. Acharya asked, sir, you mentioned Iron Age in these sites around 2500 BCE. Does this predate North Indian iron tool usage?
No, it is difficult to say. North India also, they have early dates, but currently, whatever the dates that they have got, we cannot come to any clear conclusion. We need to do further research. So we have not developed enough to compare North India and South India because this is an ongoing research. But one thing is certain, the recent early dates for Iron Age indicates that we need to undertake more evidence and research. It is possible that iron began early in South India. It is possible because we have a lot of iron ore in peninsular India. That could be one of the reasons. Whereas in North India, we have more copper-oriented cultures. But it will be very difficult to do a comparison at this stage because we need more evidence.
So related to that, I have a question in that, in the early excavations of Dr. Siran Jaraniagala from Sri Lanka and Dr. K. Rajan from South India, some of the dates were contested as being not calibrated properly. That calibration for South India and Sri Lanka should differ from calibration for North India. Will you comment on that?
I think, see, as far as this earliest evidence, I think we need to wait. We cannot, immediately comment. But one thing is that we should be open to this idea that some of the dates we need to relook at and we need to undertake further research. Only by getting more samples, more dating, will be able to conclude. Without a few dates, we cannot say. And also, we need to look at the completely, published reports. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Nandana asks, is there any evidence of cooking in the Neolithic and earlier? Any herbs?
We did not find. I think people must have used. I think I don't know if anybody's conducted any kind of residual area. Kathleen Morrison and Jennifer Bates, they have identified some evidence for cooking. Obviously, if these people are grinding these grains, millets, and they were having vessels, they were using fire for making ceramics. It is logically, acceptable that these people were cooking, but they have found some evidence for this cooking in the form of charred food. It has been published by Jennifer Bates. Yes, these people definitely were cooking, and the bones have charring. So definitely they were roasting meat and they were mixing. Probably they must have milked the cows and mixed them with the flour and eaten. So it is logically acceptable. Maybe in future, if they do more ceramic residue analysis, they'll be able to prove it better. Yes.
So Ramya asks, initially you talked about the red sand dunes. The microliths buried underneath it might have gone through damages because of the soil nature. Can you please explain the caution of preservation of these tools?
Yeah. These tools are they are well preserved. There is no damage because I myself have seen some of the tools. They are all chert, very hard material. They have not undergone any damage. Many of the microliths, if you look at these quartz and chert, they are very durable material. That is why they selected them for making the tools. They are not some kind of materials that would have decayed. But organic material is, if they had used wood or other, they would have, definitely decomposed. We may find them in some underwater condition. Otherwise, these are very durable.
So do you see these tools coming from agatic or granitic material, since the terry composition is, ferrous rich?
I think these cherty material, they must have obtained from some of the limestone, because we have some limestone material in that area. Probably there are certain areas where they have these nodules. So they must have obtained these material not from the terry area, away from the terry, and then brought and made the tools, I think. You also find quartz nodules in the area, which they could have collected and used.
So Renuka Deve asked, was South India also covered by ice during the last ice age?
That I maybe must be. I need to check. I'm not. It must have been. Obviously, it must have been. I need to check this. Right.
Satya asks, is wearing oliva shell connected to any religious belief or is it just aesthetic?
Maybe it could be connected to the religious belief, but we do not know. Sometimes people believe these shells, they tend to make some kind of sound. They say it is the sound of the ocean. And especially they use these kind of shells for children. Probably they think these shells could protect people. We don't know, but we don't have any direct access to the knowledge. Yes.
Is there any contemporary belief regarding these shells?
Contemporary beliefs, see, nowadays they use the shell for animals. But shell is also used for feeding. As far as I know, some of the tribal communities, they use shell, but I need to check the references.
Sir?
Yes.
Do we have any further questions? We are about to finish. So, Mr. A. Balamurugan asks, we see marks on the side of the hammerstone, but why circle mark is seen in the center of the hammerstone? If you got a hammerstone with a circle mark, do we consider that a pecking?
No, but here in the Neolithic, we have seen this in other site, but not in this site. Some of the hammerstones, we don't have that marks. Some of them are, some of the images that you saw in the photograph, probably they were polishers. They were polishers. I doubt if there is any hammerstone. There are spheroids. They were polishers.
I think this definitely has a potential for a slightly longer course or short course. What do you say, Ramesh?
Oh, very certainly, ma'am.
Yeah, so let's work on it with Dr. Selva.
Yes.
Yes, sir. We would also like to come and visit you.
Yes.
We had a very exciting tour of southern Tamil Nadu. We had visited all the sites on the Tamraparani banks. Molapalayalam, Porca, etc. So we'd love to see more sites in Tamil Nadu. So shall we call it a day, ma'am, if there are no further questions?
Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
Please, Samak. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Alan, sir, you can take it away.